Walt Nauta, for a moment, steps out of Donald Trump's shadow and into a blistering legal spotlight. Trump's personal aide and now co-defendant pleaded not guilty to helping his boss, the former president, hide classified documents. But here's a twist. The arraignment comes after a judge unsealed more of the Mar-a-Lago search warrant affidavit, which reveals prosecutors have surveillance video showing someone move dozens of boxes before that FBI search. I want to bring in both CNN's Caitlin Polentz and CNN legal analyst Norm Eisen, who's a former counsel to the House Democrats during Trump's first impeachment. Caitlin, first to you, tell us what we learned in the courtroom today.
Well, not a lot, because it was really a very short hearing, but it's an important hearing.
Yeah.
It's the hearing where Walt Nauta finally, after a month from the indictment of both him and Donald Trump, he gets to enter his not guilty plea. He himself showed up in court, and now they're off toward a trial where he and Donald Trump are both linked as co-defendants. Yeah. They both want trials. We also know from our reporting that Trump's defense team is pretty clued in to what Walt Nauta's defense team is doing as well. And so now they're on this path of, when will the trial be? Will Donald Trump, as he loves to do in court, be able to drag this out? And at any point in time, does Walt Nauta's interests diverge from Donald Trump? So to that point, Norm Eisen, could those interests diverge, thereby putting pressure on Nauta to turn state's evidence, perhaps against the former president?
Well, Jim, having defended individuals for more than 3 decades, I would argue their interests already are divergent. Nauta is looking potentially at decades if convicted. The normal thing to do with a lower down person in this kind of an alleged criminal scheme is to, I would always tell my client, look, cut a deal as early as you can to save yourself from that risk. Nauta hasn't done that. So yes, that pressure will continue. And
he, of course, doesn't have the conflict, if you want to call it that, of currently running for president. Nauta does not, only the other defendant does. In the midst of this, Caitlin, we learn about surveillance video from Mar-a-Lago showing boxes being moved prior to the FBI search. They don't identify who that person is, but we have some indicators as to who it likely is.
It's pretty clear it's Walt Nauta, because these details arise again in the indictment against him. And we know that this is the sort of thing prosecutors are going to be showing at trial, the video that they would have of Nauta moving these boxes, what prosecutors say was done at the direction of Donald Trump. But we get this new document yesterday, or more redacted. Redactions are lifted from the document. It was a document submitted to court before the FBI search last August. And actually, the surveillance footage was quite extensive. There were 4 different angles around the storage room, so they could see who was coming and going. They were watching this room. You could see, they described people being seen moving behind a refrigerator, which indicated they were going in and out of the storage room. And they see this witness, now we know Walt Nauta, moving 50 or so boxes out on one day and then taking more out. And not all of those boxes come back in. That's the reason they say to the judge, we need to go and search the property.
So Norm, from a legal perspective, and I don't want to minimize the difficulties in this case, and you got to prove it and so on, and to a jury, but if you have video of them moving documents, you knew that they'd been informed they needed to hand this stuff back, this was taking place before the search, etc. I mean, it sounds like they have a lot of pieces of the case together here.
This may be the single strongest of all of the cases that have been brought or that are potentially on the horizon. You just have such damning evidence that's laid out in the indictment. As Caitlin points out, now we have even more because of the lifting of the additional redactions out of the materials supporting the search warrant. You know, to the Nauta question, it makes you wonder why deals never get better over time, Jim. Why wouldn't he want to leave the Trump train earlier to cut a better deal? Perhaps he's gambling, and perhaps Donald Trump himself gambling on a return to the White House, where the pardon power, or simply Trump ordering the Department of Justice stand down on this prosecution is available. It is puzzling, the loyalty that NADA has shown, particularly since it seems overwhelmingly likely they have video evidence on him.
It's also possible the Justice Department isn't interested in offering him a plea deal, or Walt Nauta thinks that he could take this to trial and win.
I have never known in 30 years where they would not want to make an offer of some kind. It's not always a sweetheart deal. Maybe NADA has to serve some jail time. But even a moderate amount of jail time is better than the high risk of decades in jail. And he can testify to have an insider say, yes, if the government proves its case. Donald Trump ordered me to do that. That would be devastating.
Well, that would be remarkable. And listen, decades in prison, that's quite a penalty to face. Norm Eisen, Kaylee Pullins, thanks so much. It's going to be an interesting next few weeks.